unequivocally. I'm standing here with my colleague, Minister Arif Virani. He sits around our cabinet table with every single minister who is 100% committed to supporting Ukraine. The three of us, Yvan, Arif, and I, are part of a caucus who unanimously and 100% support Ukraine, and we will continue to do that and stand with Ukraine until victory on Ukraine's terms. Well, I'd like to invite my colleague, Minister Arif Virani, up to the stage to say a few words.
Much Dobry day. It is an honor to be here, but it is a somber experience being here today. As we stand in front of you, in front of a sign that says 1,000 days, pray for Ukraine, what I want everyone to do is keep Ukraine in their thoughts. What I think about on this day is those very early days, that very first week, when a man not much larger in stature than me, the president of Ukraine, said, "I don't need a ride, what I need is ammunition." President Volodymyr Zelensky in that one moment showed his resolve. But in the last 1,000 days, Ukrainians, the brave men and women who serve Ukraine, who fight for Ukraine, have shown the world what Ukrainians are made of, their strength, their courage, and their resilience. And I think about that. I'm not a native speaker like Yvan, who is sometimes my tutor. But when we say Slava Ukraini, you respond? But it is those heroes that you are paying homage to. And it is those heroes that we are here for today. So yes, it is somber. And yes, we hold candles because we remember the lives that have been forsaken. But I think it is important what James was saying, because around the cabinet table, we talk about the resolve for Ukraine. We talk about the importance of supporting Ukraine militarily. We talk about humanitarian aid. We talk about opening Canada's doors to Ukrainians who want safe haven temporarily here. We talk about economic support. I will say to you quite candidly, people ask me all of the time, Arif, you're now Justice Minister. What does it mean? It means regular meetings with people like Andrei Kostin, the Prosecutor General of Ukraine. And you know what he asked me about? He's asked me about two things very recently. The first was about how do we leverage more economic support, Arif? Your government has been in the vanguard of ensuring that we freeze Russian assets. There's a very symbolic one right outside of Pearson. When you drive right by the airport, you see that plane sitting there symbolically as a testament to you of all of our resolve. But he said, it's not just about those frozen assets. What about the interest that is accruing on those assets? How do we leverage that money to support the economic rebuild of Ukraine? We thought about that. Christia and I talked about it. We talked about it with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister talked about it with people like Joe Biden, a steadfast ally of Ukraine. And together they worked it out at the G7 this June about how to leverage billions of dollars from the interest on those frozen assets to support the rebuild. That's solidarity in action. I'll say to you one other thing. Prosecutor General Andrei Kostin said to me, Arif, you have this big Department of Justice. It is known around the world for the supreme quality of those workers. Can you lend us some of that talent, some of that expertise? I can say to you proudly today that there are Department of Justice lawyers who work under my instruction that are now at the ICC helping with the investigations into war crimes in Ukraine. That is important solidarity. Vitaimo, you're welcome. But what I would say to you is that, and I say this gently and I say this respectfully, that after 1,000 days, some people's patience is wavering. And we see that sometimes abroad in different elections, including recent elections, and sometimes, unfortunately, here in Canada and in Ottawa. And what I would say is that what I would like to return to is the days in 2015 where we used to fight with each other over who could be more demonstrative in their support of Ukraine. That's the solidarity with Ukraine that I remember, that I want to get back to. And unfortunately, we have not seen that in every instance, in every vote in the House of Commons, with things like the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement or targeted supports for Operation Unifier. You need to reflect on all of that and demand more of every parliamentarian of every stripe. But I will say to you that with the Liberal Party, under Prime Minister Trudeau, with Pani Christia at his side, what we have seen is supports for the economic aid, humanitarian aid, supports for immigrants that want to come here, and supports, importantly, for economic reconstruction. That is the solidarity you will always see from Liberal members of Parliament like myself, like Ivane, like James, because that is what we believe in. When we say Slava Ukraini, we mean it. Дуже дякую.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to first of all thank all of you for being here in such large numbers. This is 1,000 days of Ukrainians fighting, but for 1,000 days and longer, all of you and many others have been at events like this, at rallies like this, fundraising, donating, doing all that you can to support Ukraine, and I thank you for that. I'm really proud to be here with James Maloney and Arif Virani. There are few politicians in Canada who have done more to support Ukraine than James Maloney and Arif Virani. And I want you all to know that, but I also want you all to remember that. We need more allies like James and Arif. Yeah. Today, Tuesday, marks 1,000 days from the time that Putin began the further brutal invasion of Ukraine. Our government has said that Canada will stand with the Ukrainian people until they win. That victory is the only option. And victory is the only option for Ukraine, but it's also the only option for Canada. Because Ukraine's victory is essential to Canada's security, to our security. If Russia wins, it will not stop at Ukraine. How do I know that? Because Putin has said so, time and time again. So if Russia wins, Putin will not stop at Ukraine. And then it'll be us. It'll be Canadians, it'll be Americans, it'll be Europeans who'll be defending ourselves against Russian aggression, whether it's in NATO in Europe, whether it's in the Canadian Arctic, or whether it's somewhere else. So Ukraine's victory is vital to Canada's security. Every Ukrainian soldier that's fighting today is therefore one less Canadian who will have to fight in the future. And every dollar we spend today is millions of dollars less that we will have to spend in the future, Canadians will have to spend in the future to defend our own security and our own sovereignty and our own economy. Our government understands this, and that is why Canada has been a leading country in supporting Ukraine, as James and Arif have alluded to. Canada has now provided $20 billion in support to Ukraine. Most of that is military, financial, and humanitarian aid and more. But frankly, it won't be enough until Ukraine wins, until it achieves that decisive victory. And the three of us and others, our government will continue to work until we achieve that goal. But the reality is if we want that to happen, then we need as many MPs as possible advocating for that outcome. And so I know all of you stand here today. Today's a somber event. Today we're commemorating 1,000 days of Ukrainians valiantly defending their homeland and all of us. But I have a request of you. I hope that today, that sadness, some of you feel anger, some of you feel frustration. I feel all of those things. I hope you take that and you use that to motivate you. I will use it to motivate me, but I hope you will use it to motivate you. And one of the things you can do tangibly is write to your member of parliament, of any party, of any riding, write to the Prime Minister, write to the leaders of the different parties in Canada, and tell them that you expect Canada to do everything possible to help Ukraine achieve a decisive victory. Can you do that? Я вас не чую. Will you do that? Thank you. That's how we can make sure that Canada does everything possible. And if we do that, Ukraine will win.